"Ratty," said the mole suddenly, one bright summer morning, "if you please, I want to ask you a favor." The rat was sitting on the river bank, singing a little song. He had just composed it himself, so he was very taken up with it, and would not pay proper attention to Mole or anything else. Since early morning he had been swimming in the river, in company with his friends the ducks. And when the ducks stood on their heads suddenly, as ducks will, he would dive down and tickle their necks, just under where their chins would be if ducks had chins, till they were forced to come to the surface again in a hurry, spluttering and angry and shaking their feathers at him, for it is impossible to say quite all you feel when your head is under water. At last they implored him to go away and attend to his own affairs and leave them to mind theirs. So the rat went away, and sat on the river bank in the sun, and made up a song about them, which he called Duck's Ditty. All along the backwater, through the rushes tall, ducks are a-dabbling, up tails all. Ducks' tails, drakes' tails. Yellow feet a-quiver, yellow bills all out of sight busy in the river. Slushy green undergrowth. Where the roach swim, here we keep our larder, cool and full and dim. Everyone for what he likes. We like to be heads down, tails up, dabbling free, high in the blue above. Swifts whirl and call, we are down a-dabbling. Up tails all. I don't know that I think so very much of that little song, Rat, observed the mole cautiously. He was no poet himself and didn't care who knew it, and he had a candid nature. Nor don't the ducks neither, replied the rat cheerfully. They say, why can't fellows be allowed to do what they like when they like and as they like, instead of other fellows sitting on banks and watching them all the time and making remarks and poetry and things about them? What nonsense it all is. That's what the ducks say. So it is, said the mole, with great heartiness. No, it isn't, cried the rat indignantly. Well then, it isn't, replied the mole soothingly. But what I wanted to ask you was, won't you take me to call on Mr. Toad? I've heard so much about him, and I do so want to make his acquaintance. Why, certainly, said the good-natured rat, jumping to his feet and dismissing poetry from his mind for the day. Get the boat out, and we'll paddle up there at once. It's never the wrong time to call on Toad. Early or late he's always the same fellow. Always good-tempered, always glad to see you, always sorry when you go. He must be a very nice animal, observed the mole, as he got into the boat and took the sculls, while the rat settled himself comfortably in the stern. He is indeed the best of animals, replied Rat. So simple, so good-natured, and so affectionate. Perhaps he's not very clever, we can't all be geniuses, and it may be that he is both boastful and conceited. But he has got some great qualities, has Toady. Rounding a bend in the river, they came in sight of a handsome, dignified old house of mellowed red brick, with well-kept lawns reaching down to the water's edge. There's Toad Hall, said the rat, and that creek on the left, where the notice board says, private. No landing allowed, leads to his boathouse, where we'll leave the boat. The stables are over there, to the right. That's the banqueting hall you're looking at now, very old, that is. Toad is rather rich, you know, and this is really one of the nicest houses in these parts, though we never admit as much to Toad. They glided up the creek, and the mole shipped his sculls as they passed into the shadow of a large boathouse. Here they saw many handsome boats, slung from the crossbeams or hauled up on a slip, but none in the water, and the place had an unused and a deserted air. The rat looked around him. I understand, said he. Boating is played out. He's tired of it, and done with it. I wonder what new fad he has taken up now. Come along and let's look him up. We shall hear all about it quite soon enough. They disembarked, and strolled across the gay flower-decked lawns in search of Toad, whom they presently happened upon resting in a wicker garden chair, with a preoccupied expression of face, and a large map spread out on his knees. Hooray! He cried, jumping up on seeing them, this is splendid. He shook the paws of both of them warmly, never waiting for an introduction to the mole. How kind of you. He went on, dancing round them. I was just going to send a boat down the river for you, Ratty, with strict orders that you were to be fetched up here at once, whatever you were doing. I want you badly, both of you. Now what will you take? Come inside and have something. You don't know how lucky it is, you're turning up just now. Let's sit quiet a bit, Toady, said the rat, throwing himself into an easy chair, while the mole took another by the side of him and made some civil remark about Toad's delightful residence. Finest house on the whole river, cried Toad boisterously. Or anywhere else, for that matter, he could not help adding. Here the rat nudged the mole. Unfortunately, the toad saw him do it, and turned very red. There was a moment's painful silence. Then Toad burst out laughing. All right, Ratty, he said. It's only my way, you know. And it's not such a very bad house, is it? You know you rather like it yourself. Now, look here. Let's be sensible. You are the very animals I wanted. You've got to help me. It's most important. It's about your rowing, I suppose, said the rat, with an innocent air. You're getting on fairly well, though you splash a good bit still. With a great deal of patience, and any quantity of coaching, you may. Oh, pooh. Boating, interrupted the toad, in great disgust. Silly boyish amusement. I've given that up long ago. Sheer waste of time, that's what it is. It makes me downright sorry to see you fellows, who ought to know better, spending all your energies in that aimless manner. No, I've discovered the real thing, the only genuine occupation for a lifetime. I propose to devote the remainder of mine to it, and can only regret the wasted years that lie behind me, squandered in trivialities. Come with me, dear Ratty, and your amiable friend also, if he will be so very good, just as far as the stable-yard, and you shall see what you shall see. He led the way to the stable-yard accordingly, the rat following with a most mistrustful expression, and there, drawn out of the coach-house into the open, they saw a gypsy caravan, shining with newness, painted a canary yellow picked out with green and red wheels. There you are, cried the toad, straddling and expanding himself. There's real life for you, embodied in that little cart. The open road, the dusty highway, the heath, the common, the hedgerows, the rolling downs. Camps, villages, towns, cities. Here today, up and off to somewhere else tomorrow. Travel, change, interest, excitement. The whole world before you, and a horizon that's always changing. And mind, this is the very finest cart of its sort that was ever built, without any exception. Come inside and look at the arrangements. Planned 'em all myself, I did. The mole was tremendously interested and excited, and followed him eagerly up the steps and into the interior of the caravan. The rat only snorted and thrust his hands deep into his pockets, remaining where he was. It was indeed very compact and comfortable. Little sleeping bunks, a little table that folded up against the wall, a cooking stove, lockers, bookshelves, a bird cage with a bird in it, and pots, pans, jugs and kettles of every size and variety. All complete, said the toad triumphantly, pulling open a locker. You see, biscuits, potted lobster, sardines, everything you can possibly want. Soda water here, bocce there, letter paper, bacon, jam, cards and dominoes. You'll find, he continued, as they descended the steps again, you'll find that nothing whatever has been forgotten, when we make our start this afternoon. Questions. 1. The phrase "one bright summer morning" sets a specific mood for the story. Which of the following best describes the mood created by this opening? A. Gloomy and introspective. B. Suspenseful and mysterious. C. Cheerful and idyllic. D. Angry and frustrated. 2. If ducks had chins is an example of which literary device? A. Simile. B. Metaphor. C. Personification. D. Conditional clause. 3. What is the significance of the swifts in Swift's whirl and call? A. They symbolize danger in the environment. B. They represent freedom and agility. C. They serve as predators to the ducks. D. They contribute to the aesthetic beauty of the setting. 4. What inference can be made about the rat's personality from his interaction with the ducks? A. He is mischievous and enjoys teasing others. B. He is compassionate and enjoys helping animals. C. He is indifferent to the feelings of other creatures. D. He is cautious and avoids confrontation. 5. How does the title Duck's Ditty indicate the rat's perception of the song? A. A serious and complex composition. B. A harsh critique of the duck's behavior. C. A silly and light-hearted piece. D. A celebration of their unique lifestyle. 6. What does the phrase slushy green undergrowth suggest about the environment described in the passage? A. The undergrowth is clean and well maintained. B. The undergrowth is wet and muddy. C. The undergrowth is covered with algae and moss. D. The undergrowth is sparse and dry. 7. Do the lines heads down, tails up, / dabbling free convey a sense of something specific? A. Vulnerability and danger. B. Contentedness and freedom. C. Anxiety and restlessness. D. A competition and conflict. 8. What is the primary purpose of the repetition of up tails all in the song? A. Emphasize the duck's unusual appearance. B. Create a sense of rhythm and energy. C. Reveal the duck's hidden aggression. D. Mock the duck's lack of intelligence. 9. What does the rat's mimicking of the duck's voice primarily serve in the statement they say, "Why can't fellows be allowed to do what they like, instead of other fellows sitting on banks?" A. Highlight the duck's genuine frustration with being observed. B. Subtly reveal the rat's own boredom with passive activities. C. Add a light-hearted and playful tone to the duck's complaint. D. Underline the duck's arrogance and sense of entitlement. 10. What does the mole's question "But what I wanted to ask you was, won't you take me to call on Mr. Toad?" primarily indicate? A. Genuine desire to change the subject to avoid conflict. B. Clever use of a diversion to hide his dislike of the rat's song. C. Sudden lack of interest in the conversation about the ducks. D. Long-held desire to finally meet the well-known Mr. Toad. 11. What does the phrase "private no landing allowed" emphasize? A. His desire to control access to his property and project an air of exclusivity. B. His underlying insecurity about his social status and need for external validation. C. His tendency to prioritize his own enjoyment over the needs of others. D. His disregard for potential legal consequences of his actions. 12. What deeper theme does the contrast between Toad's grand residence and his abandoned boathouse hint at? A. The difference between external appearances and internal desires. B. The importance of maintaining a consistent and focused lifestyle. C. The potential dangers of neglecting previous commitments. D. The conflict between wealth and personal fulfillment. 13. What tone can be best attributed to the rat when he says, "Boating is played out"? A. Bored and disinterested. B. Cynical and judgmental. C. Speculative and curious. D. Disappointed and resentful. 14. In the phrase "they glided up the creek, and the mole shipped his sculls," what does the verb shipped suggest the mole is doing? A. Preparing to row the boat with renewed vigor. B. Surprised by the sudden appearance of the boathouse. C. Signaling to the rat to slow down and be more cautious. D. Putting the oars away as they reach their destination. 15. What does the description of the boathouse as having an unused and a deserted air contrast with the reader's expectation of finding a well-maintained and organized workspace? B. Witnessing a scene teeming with activity that suggests preparation for a new project. C. Discovering a peaceful and serene environment. D. Observing a display of Toad's many boating trophies. 16. The phrase "we never admit as much to Toad" highlights which aspect of the rat and mole's relationship? A. A playful desire to tease Toad about his wealth. B. A sense of shared understanding and camaraderie. C. A fear of offending Toad's delicate ego. D. A shared dislike of Toad's boastful tendencies. 17. What does Toad's greeting "Hooray! This is splendid" primarily reveal about him? A. Genuine warmth and friendliness. B. Tendency towards exaggeration. C. Desire to impress guests and appear important. D. Lack of awareness about social boundaries. 18. What does the word choice in Toad's statement "I want you badly, both of you" primarily emphasize? A. Sense of urgency and need for their help. B. Desperation for company and companionship. C. Possessiveness and controlling nature. D. Tendency to see others primarily as sources of entertainment. 19. In the sentence "finest house on the whole river," cried Toad boisterously, which word functions as an adverb? A. Finest. B. Whole. C. Boisterously. D. Cried. 20. What was the immediate effect of Toad seeing the rat nudge the mole? A. Toad became visibly upset and left the scene. B. Toad laughed but then turned serious and apologized. C. Toad laughed it off and explained it as his usual behavior. D. Toad ignored it and changed the topic abruptly. 21. What does Toad's description of boating as "silly boyish amusement" primarily reveal? A. A deep-seated dislike of physical activity. B. A condescending view of his past hobbies. C. His desire to impress the rat and the mole with his maturity. D. A lack of self-awareness about his own childish tendencies. 22. What does Toad's declaration that he's discovered the only genuine occupation for a lifetime imply about his beliefs or perspective? A. Sincerely believes this new passion will offer lasting contentment and fulfillment. B. Has a naive view of commitment and underestimates the potential for boredom or disillusionment. C. Is primarily motivated by a desire to appear unique and outdo his friends. D. Understands the value of patience and sustained focus in achieving long-term goals. 23. What does the rat's mistrustful expression primarily reveal? A. Envy of Toad's wealth and carefree lifestyle. B. Disdain for Toad's impulsiveness and lack of focus. C. Skepticism towards the practicality of Toad's latest endeavor. D. Boredom with Toad's predictable and repetitive antics. 24. What does Toad's description "there's real life for you" primarily suggest about his previous lifestyle? A. Lacking in adventure and spontaneity. B. Morally questionable and filled with regrets. C. Focused on material wealth over meaningful experiences. D. Unnecessarily difficult and filled with hardship. 25. What purpose does Toad's emphatic question and mind "This is the very finest cart of its sort, without any exception" serve? A. Highlight his knowledge about various caravan designs. B. Dismiss potential criticism or comparisons to other caravans. C. Emphasize the exclusivity and superiority of his purchase. D. Subtly manipulate the rat and mole with his enthusiasm. 26. The contrasting reactions of the rat and the mole to Toad's caravan reveal a fundamental difference in their personalities. Which best describes this difference? A. The rat is more practical and grounded, while the mole is easily swayed by enthusiasm. B. The rat envies Toad's wealth and carefree lifestyle, while the mole admires his adventurous spirit. C. The rat is more social and enjoys group activities, while the mole prefers solitude. D. The rat harbors a secret dislike for Toad, while the mole is blindly loyal to him. 27. How does the phrase horizon that's always changing function in Toad's description of caravan life? A. Simile directly comparing the journey to a constantly shifting landscape. B. Hyperbole exaggerating the frequency of encountering new locations. C. Metaphor implying endless possibilities and new experiences on the trip. D. A personification suggesting the horizon itself is actively moving to meet the traveler. 28. What does Toad's description of the caravan and its contents primarily emphasize? A. The comfort and convenience it affords for a life on the road. B. The practicality and functionality of its design for various needs. C. The novelty and excitement associated with a life of constant travel. D. His own wealth and status as he flaunts his new acquisition. 29. In the description of Toad's caravan, which detail most emphasizes its ability to function as a home away from home for its inhabitants? A. The vibrant yellow paint job and contrasting red wheels, highlighting its novelty. B. The extensive list of supplies mentioned, including food, toiletries, and entertainment. C. Toad's boastful claim that it's the finest cart of its sort, suggesting luxury. D. The emphasis on travel and constant change, contrasting with a settled home. 30. What does Toad's repetition of "you'll find" when listing the caravan's contents primarily reveal about him? A. Pride in his meticulous planning and thoroughness. B. Desire to share his excitement and generosity with his friends. C. Subconscious anxiety about potentially lacking something essential. D. Need to prove his competence after earlier being caught boasting.